Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Bank of America Business Fundamentals Series 1. I am your host, Irene Cho. Um, Today's topic covered building a financial foundation, setting financial goals, credit management, budgeting, and savings. This webinar is brought to you in partnership with the City of Los Angeles Economic and Workforce Development Department, called EWDD, BusinessSource Pico-Union Westlake region operated by Pace Business Development Center and Bank of America. This webinar will be recorded and you may find it on our website, eLibrary, after a week. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please mute yourself during the webinar. This session will be a lot of interacting, so we will use a chat box. So you can write down the chat box if you have any question, okay? Before we get to topic of the day, I'd like to introduce PACE briefly. PACE was originally formed in 1975, and we are a 501 nonprofit organization. Our PACE Business Development Center provides many counseling services for local small business owners. We also provide free webinars and training to accommodate your business to take another level. We have various loan programs you can apply to your business. So if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website, pacebdc.org, or give us a call. So next, two webinars, upcoming webinars is here. And now, let's welcoming our guest speaker, Valerie Rivas.
Thank you so much, Irene, and always a pleasure to working with you. Let me see here. Still a little bit of background noise here on my end. Okay. Well, thank you so much again, Pace and Irene, for your continued partnership and allowing me to present today. So today we're going to be talking about building a financial foundation. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me try to fix this. Okay, actually better. All right. And then Irene, if you could just please confirm that you can actually see my screen.
Yeah, see, I can see it, but can you make a full screen?
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Well, let me first please introduce myself so that way you know who's in front of you this afternoon. My name is Valerie Rivas. I'm Vice President for Business Community Engagement here in Los Angeles in Southern California. And just a little bit about myself. I've been with Bank of America for a total of 11 years. I've been in the finance industry for 21 years. And also I have, sorry, the echo is too much and I can't turn it off. And so pretty much I've been in the finance industry for 21 years and I've been serving entrepreneurs and business owners like yourself for the last 15 years. So I enjoy what I do, and on a day-to-day basis, what I do is I provide financial education for businesses and entrepreneurs. And in addition to that, I provide access to capital options and resources. So as you know, as a business owner, especially if you're just starting out, or let's just say that your lender declines you or you're not able to do any type of lending with them because you don't fit the guidelines or criteria, then I would be able to help you as to where you can get your access to capital options. And in whatever area of your business that you are, so that let's just say that you're a startup or you don't have a social security number, or let's just say that your bank declining, then I would be able to guide you where to go. In addition to that, I do love to serve my community. So I do sit on the Hispanic Latino Business Council here internally at Bank of America. So we drive different initiatives throughout the Los Angeles area for Hispanics, for the entrepreneurs and business owners to thrive. In addition, I sit on a few nonprofit boards, and they all support entrepreneurship. So I would love to share resources with you beyond to what we have today. So very excited to talk about building a financial foundation. Now, what I do want to clarify is that today's class is a little bit different because right now we are starting from your personal finances. As you know, as a business owner, there's finances involved when it comes to the business. So it's very important that you understand the concept at a basic level for the personal side. Why? Because as a business owner, you want to be able to prepare yourself and set yourself for success. Now, with that being said, I wanted to bring up couple a couple of stats that actually relate to today's workshop. Now, every year we do something called the Business Owner Report here at Bank of America, and the reason we do that is we want to take a look at our clients' aspirations, what their goals are, what they feel the industry that they're in, the direction of their company is going, any economic concerns, environmental concerns, but more than anything, how we could actually serve them better. Now, in 2024, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a few stats that are related to today, why it's important to be prepared. But in 2024, we had 71% of our clients that were looking for access to capital options. In addition to that, 84% were concerned because inflation was actually negatively impacting their business. So at that point, you may want to explore pivoting or maybe raising prices or just adjusting to the economy. 87% were saying that the revenue was going to increase moving forward. And then 80% of them were actually looking to expand their business. So you can see how all of this is related to financial literacy and pretty much having your financials in good standing so that you are prepared for any unforeseen events that may come up. Now, what are our objectives today? We're going to do an overview of basic banking terms and process, and this is where the chat is actually going to come in, okay? So I would like to know, I will definitely need everybody to participate and let me know where you stand so that I kind of have an idea of the direction of the workshop today. So I will be asking questions and you will be answering it in Q&A today. 2, 3 steps for better money management, budgeting, savings, and managing debt. And then 3, how to establish and maintain good credit. So let me go ahead and go back in here so that I can view everybody's chat. Recording in progress. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. True or false? All funds from non-cash deposits made to your personal or business checking account are available for immediate use. Is this true or false? Thank you, Eliana. False. Laura, false. Okay, perfect. Dawn, false. False. Okay, perfect. So yes, you are correct. False. In some cases, a check may take longer than you expect to clear. So because of that, we have to have some sort of preparation or some sort of backup in the event that this does happen, because it does happen. And depending on the bank, sometimes they give you same day availability but for the most part, they'll give you the next day funding, or it could even be, if it's a larger check, it could even take weeks for them to verify that check. So very important that you keep this in mind. Question number 2, what is the difference between the interest rate and the APR the bank charges you for a loan? And if you don't know the answer to this, it's totally fine. I know I didn't know the answer to this a while back, but curious to see. Okay, so I don't know the answer. That's fair. Anybody else want to give it a shot? I'll wait for a little bit for a little bit of typing if necessary. Interest rate is what the current APR of service. Let's see. Click on here. Interest rate is what is current APR is what the bank charges you. Okay. Service C. Interest rate is what is current. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the answer. So the interest rate is the cost of borrowing money, and then the APR is the annual percentage rate. So the annual percentage rate you'll actually be charged for borrowing, and this includes the fees and the cost for you to borrow. So this is an APR versus your actual current interest rate. Thank you so much for giving it a try. True or false? It's fine to combine your personal and business banking. Thank you, Eliana. Anybody else want to give it a shot? All right. So yes, that is correct. The answer is false. So for tax purposes and record keeping, it's recommended for you to not mix and commingle your personal and your business finances. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Just the same reason that you shouldn't combine multiple businesses in one business account. I had a client that had 12 different businesses under one business account. And I said, oh, well, how do you know which one's profitable and which one isn't? And the client could not give me the answer. What ended up happening is he ended up closing multiple locations because he ended up finding out when he separated that a few of the business or locations were actually at a cost to him. So he wasn't making any money. So great. Thank you so much for participating. True or false? Having good credit score and history of paying bills on time will boost your charges of getting loans and other types of credit at lower interest rates. True or false? True or false, if having good credit will improve your odds of getting credit? Uh-oh, nobody wants to ask one. So the is true. So typically the better the credit score, the terms and the lower that you can get when you borrow money. So very important that you take care of your credit score because that way you are more prone to being able to get the better terms and the better rates in the industry type of need that you might need lending. It's saying that I have bad connection. Can you hear me okay, Irene?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I guess it's just my end. Question, why does it make sense to check all of your credit reports from each bureau at least once a year? Anybody want to give this a shot? And actually, I learned my lesson on this because I had an interesting issue. All right, I'm not getting anybody, but why is it important to check your credit report? It's important to keep an eye out for mistakes or fraudulent activity, which could affect your credit report and score. So you don't know how many times, okay, I've heard clients, they're like, oh yeah, I have an 800 score. But then when we go run the credit report, the business score actually ends up coming out negative because they have been reported and they have checked their business credit score. Now, I know today we're talking about personal credit report, but at the same time, you get the idea of how that could actually negatively impact your applications. Now, something else that actually happened as well is that I was buying a property personally back in 2005, and it was an investment property. And when I ended up almost closing escrow, they said, hey, you have property under your name and you have this payment for $3,000. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I don't have another property aside of the ones that are, the ones that I stated. Well, somehow, some way, somebody used my social security to be able to acquire a property. So unfortunately, I was not able to move forward with the investment and it was going to be a good return on investment. So unfortunately, I lost out on that opportunity. So don't let that be you. Let's be proactive and make sure that you are monitoring your credit so that if you see any inaccuracies, that you can get that taken care of right away. Question number 6, what are some benefits of establishing and maintaining a budget? We're actually going to be talking about budgets today as well. And we're going to give you a budget sheet for those that are interested in having a budget sheet as well. So why is it important to establish and maintaining a budget? Can anybody give that a try? Okay, I'm not getting any participation, but answer budgets can help you in a few different items. So have control over your money, plan for the future, save strategically, and reduce your stress, and of course, manage your debt. It looks like, Ruth, you may have a question. Do you want to unmute yourself? I don't see you there. All right. Question number 7, what is a fixed expense, and provide an example? Can anybody give me an example on a fixed expense that you may have? And this could be one of your expenses that you currently have that is always probably the same. Anybody can give me an example? All right, so fixed expenses are the expenses that don't change from month to month, so such as rent, mortgage, car loan payments, and insurance. So these are your expenses that never change. Something really important to keep in mind, because we are going to start thinking about this when we get into the budget section. What is a variable expense, and can anybody provide an example? All right, so variable expenses are expenses that are a different amount each month. So this means it varies, right? So each month it changes. So this could be like our groceries. It could also be doctor appointments. Our co-pays can probably change. Maybe you have prescriptions that are variable, or and it will change on a monthly basis. Also something else that I can think that fluctuates, let's see, it could be maybe my water bill, or during the summer, my electricity bill could also change. So those are all variable expenses. So at that point, you may want to create some sort of cushion for those unexpected spikes in prices. All right, so now that we were able to get all of that, let's go ahead and get into a little bit further about 3 steps for better money management. But so we're going to go through budgeting, savings, and managing debt. Budgeting. So let's go ahead and get into a budget. So on here, you see a sample budget. So this is what it looks like overall. Now, on here, if you see, this is where you're going to put all of your income. So let's go ahead and separate this and break this down. When it comes to wages, this is going to be all of the money that you have as far as salary or your hourly type of rate that you get from your employer. If you're self-employed or maybe a contractor, then you would put it on the second, because you may have multiple sites of income. And then also you may also receive tips. So at this point, let's just say that we are in January. So we're going to start fresh here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put an amount here. So let's just say that January, your total that you get, let's just say it's $5,000. Okay. Now, when it comes to expenses, if you see here, fixed expense and variable expenses, and just know that what we're seeing here today, this is not set in stone. Maybe you don't pay rent. Maybe you pay a mortgage, or maybe you don't pay anything at all when it comes to housing. Utilities. There may be some of you that pay utilities, or maybe that's not something that you are responsible for. Also, when it comes to cell phone plans, insurance, and streaming services, this may or may not apply to you. So just make sure the fixed expenses, those are going to be the expenses that don't change. Okay. So you want here to go ahead and take an account at all of your fixed expenses. So those are your expenses that don't change on a monthly basis. Now, when it comes to variable expenses, groceries, right? We all run out of things at a different time. So sometimes I hate when I run out of everything all in the same time, because now I know my bill is going to be higher when I go and pay for my groceries. Now, because groceries fluctuates, you may want to give yourself a cushion. So anywhere, depending on yourself, right, and how much variability there is on your expenses and in your groceries. So for me, I would probably do like $100 for myself, but that's because of my household in consideration. I have a son that is a teenager and requires a lot of more food than when he was a baby. So I would probably give myself like $100 additional for groceries, especially with the prices of eggs and everything going up, right? Dining out. So if this is something that you don't do, it's something that you don't need to include, but you definitely want to have a little bit of a cushion there because, depending on where you go in a restaurant, so whether that's a fast food restaurant or maybe a sit down restaurant, that could actually vary based on your lifestyle. So for you, you would do it, you would put on a variable expense on here and give yourself a little bit of cushion or if you kind of already know what type of dining out you will be doing. Entertainment, you definitely want to have entertainment in life, right? So it's something that I feel that it is necessary for everybody, but also set up an entertainment expense and try not to go over that budget. So especially if you have, let's just say, a birthday coming up, or you're going to be doing certain things, then you may want to add a little bit of cushion on that as well. But do add it on your budget because this is something that is going to require money to come out of your account or your pocket. So what you're going to do here is you're going to put your total expenses. So on you have your total income. On here, you're going to put your total expenses. Now, here at the bottom, we should have a positive number. If you have a negative number, this means that you are not in good shape and you're actually spending more than what you actually make. Now, it's really simple math. So you're going to take your income total minus your total expenses, and it's going to give you a number here. Now, if it's at a 0, this means that you're left with no money until your next paycheck. That's also not a good shape in good shape. Now, if you have a positive number, you want to have a positive number there, but then you also want to have that number that you feel comfortable until your next paycheck. So I always tell my business owners and my clients on the consumer side is you should have that number in mind of if I don't have a certain amount of money in my bank account, let's just say by the 15th or right before my next paycheck, what is it that I did wrong? Or maybe what is it that I need to change? Maybe you are spending too much in unnecessary groceries or unnecessary dining out. Maybe you want to transition and being able to maybe cook a little bit more at home or do some sort of meal prep so that you organize yourself for the week and then not have to spend as much money. I know at one point myself, I had a habit of just going to Starbucks and I would have a Starbucks. I worked at a branch. A Starbucks was right there at the branch shopping center. And I would go there 3 or 4 times a day. And it was unnecessary. Not only was it bad for my health because I was putting sugar in my body, but then I also ended up figuring out by taking one of these classes of how much money I was actually wasting. So I ended up investing in having a Keurig at the branch so that way we can all make our own coffees and then it was a lot cheaper. So it went from like 50 cents a cup of coffee back in the day, of course, I don't know what it is now, but 50 cents a cup of coffee instead of like $3 or $4. So it all would accumulate. I was going on multiple times a day and then sometimes I would even get myself a pastry. So it was just like unnecessary not only unnecessary calories, but then also unnecessary money that I was spending. So just make sure on here you have a number that you are comfortable with. If not, then let's go ahead and explore on here and see what are some changes that you need to make. I know at one point for my rent, I wanted to buy a house. So what I ended up doing is I ended up switching the where I was living into a more affordable home so that I can save up and being able to get my house. Now let's talk about wants versus needs. And this could get a little bit tricky, right? Because especially if there's something that you really want, you may even want to convert it as a need. So some of the wants is going to be, for example, something that I want right now is a really nice purse, and I have it in mind. I know how much it costs. I know it's not smart for me to do that move right now. So I know that that's something that is not necessary. So it's maybe something that I need a budget so I can save up to be able to get something that I want. I know Amazon could be really, really dangerous. Oh, goodness. Sometimes on there, like I just start browsing and I start adding stuff to my cart. So if that does happen to you, try to keep it in your cart for 2 to 3 days and see if you really need it. There was this one time where I was going on vacation. I wanted a few pieces of clothing. And then I kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to come back to this. And then by the time I came back to it, I was already back from my trip. And I ended up realizing I actually didn't really need it. So being able to identify what those wants are versus the needs, that's going to be very crucial for your budget. Needs. This is going to be your rent. This is going to be, if we go back here, this is going to be your rent, your utilities. You need a cell phone. I mean, I don't, it's really hard to get around nowadays without a cell phone, at least for myself and as far as me and what I do for work. Insurance, that those are all essentials of things that you actually need. Dining out and entertainment, those could actually be more of wants, right? Because there is other ways that you can maybe watch a movie at home or maybe also eat in and maybe cook yourself a nice dinner as opposed to going out and saving some money that way. So very important that you identify the wants versus needs, and this will also help you be a little bit better when it comes to budgeting and then also saving as well. Now, with budgeting, it's very important that you keep checking in. Okay. It's very hard when you don't check in, and it's very easy to fall out of your budget when you're not checking in. So if you know that, let's just say your bank account's running maybe a little bit low, you may want to explore as to why that reason is. And it could be that maybe you went over your budget, maybe on one of the different categories. Now, we all have those unexpected expenses, which is why it's very important for you to save, which we'll get into in just a moment. You might be thinking that budgeting is not working for you. So let's talk about some of the reasons as to why it's not working. It might be analysis paralysis. So I remember myself at one point, I was like, oh, well, I can only save $20 a month. I'm not even going to do it until I'm able to actually save at least, $100 a month. Well, don't let that be you, okay? You have to start somewhere. When it comes to budgeting, your system is always not going to be perfect. And you got to think about this. When it comes to financial literacy is learned. It's not something that you're born with, okay? Some of us are better than others, but just don't let it be you, but actually start somewhere, okay? An imperfect budget is actually better than no budget at all. You may also think it's too complicated. So last month you resolve and keep track of all your expenses, but for 2 days, but then now you feel defeated because now you're just like, oh my goodness, I already went over budget. Well, let's just start to reoccurring time and monthly on a weekly basis, depending on how much you need. But just make sure that you are reviewing your spending. There's also applications out there that can also help you with budgeting. So you plug in the numbers and it'll tell you what percentage you are spending on each category. Also, your bank account might do that for you as well in the online banking, depending on what bank you have. Life changes. You didn't maybe include a bill, or I know for myself, it's happened where I got really sick and then, now I started to do Uber Eats more. because now I couldn't cook and I went through surgery. Or it could be maybe that you had your tire blew out and so now you have to get all your tires replaced. So this might be something that is unexpected. So I mean, there is life changes out there. Now, again, we have to prepare for these type of unexpected expenses and unforeseen situations. And again, it goes back to also preparing, budgeting, and saving. So solution, brainstorm for one-time events and seasonal spending when setting your budget, and have an emergency fund and establish criteria for using it. So this can mean you set up a budget, or I'm sorry, you set up a savings fund for travel. Maybe you have a savings fund for example, myself, that I'm saving up for a purse so that I don't just splurge in just one paycheck. So those are different things that could actually affect. The buy button, I talked about Amazon earlier, how we can fall into this really, really easily. And you may want to do the daily deal because it's only $2.99, but then you continue doing this over and over. And if it's not on your budget, it's really easy for it to accumulate pretty fast. So pause before you hit the buy button. Remember my example when I needed something for a vacation and I wanted to wear certain things. And then when I got back, I ended up just coming back for it to be in my cart and then not needing it at all. Another reason why it might not be working is you may have forgotten about your reoccurring payments. And this could easily happen. One day you go and you sign up for, maybe you didn't have Netflix and now you sign up for Netflix, and then a couple days later maybe you signed up for the gym, but maybe, or even like a life insurance, so that could be a positive thing also, but then maybe you forgot to put it in your reoccurring payments, so you're not taking that in consideration. So very important that you identify all automatic payments and expenses and cancel any unnecessary ones. I just noticed a few days ago that I was getting charged for there was like a antivirus that I didn't need anymore on my phone. And I was getting charged, I think it was like $15.99. So if you think about that over the months, that could actually accumulate, especially if you're not using that service or if you have dual service. These are going to be things that you want to look out for. Another thing is you're a giver. So you love to splurge and maybe invite your friends or your family to dinners or entertainment or just picking up the tab. So if you're a giver, that's totally fine, but then also add it to your budget and then just make sure you're taking care of yourself first before you're taking care of others. Now let's talk about savings. Okay, so when it comes to savings, we want to make sure, as I mentioned, you're taking care of yourself first. So if you see the example on here, it says pay to the order of me. Make sure that you're protecting your finances first prior to helping others. Now, I do have some family members that are, could be maybe very generous. And then later they're like, hey, can I borrow $100? I don't have enough money for X, Y, and Z. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe you shouldn't have paid for that tab, or maybe you should have thought about your rent first prior to actually paying for others, or prior to buying your kids some really fancy shoes that maybe that your kid didn't need. So just make sure that you are paying yourself first and taking care of you first. Now, better money management. Prioritize. So prioritize yourself, pay yourself first, make it automatic. So I know for myself on a bi-weekly basis or whenever I get paid, I have where a certain amount comes out and automatically. So I don't even think about it. I just think about it as an additional liability. So being able to do this automatic when you get paid, especially if you get paid like direct deposit, that's really easy for you to just do it automatic. Now, if you're self-employed and maybe it fluctuates, then you maybe want to consider doing it manually, as your income may fluctuate up and down. And think about 1%. So at least start at the 1%. So let's just say, you're getting $5,000 a month, just times that by 1%, and at least save 1%, and then start on a monthly basis or every other month or when you can, increasing that amount and try to get to 10%. Ideally, 10% would be the ideal number for you to save on a monthly basis of your total income. Now let's talk about better money management and being able to repay debt. And this has happened to me in the past where I was in college. I, maybe spent too much money in books or maybe too much money on eating out, and then I got into a little bit of credit card trouble. So here are a couple of methods that you can actually repay your debt. Okay. Now, the first one is actually my favorite, but let's also consider what your situation is, because based on your situation, another method might be ideal for you. Now, snowball method, if you take a look here, you see the smaller squares all the way to the big squares. So on here, you're going to pay all the minimums first, and then the lowest balance first. So you're going to pay on here. So let's just say you have a balance here of $100, $200, $300, $400. The reason I like this one is because it gives me a sense of a feel of accomplishment when I pay a credit card off. So on here, what you're going to do is all of these credit cards here, you're going to pay the minimum. And then what you're going to do with the smallest credit card is you're going to pay the most possible that you can. So let's just say that I was able to pay $100 and then I was able to pay the minimum here on the rest. This means that this card is now X'd out and it's now paid off. Now I start doing the same thing with the second and third and fourth credit card. As it says here, you'll feel a boost of each time you pay off an account, and those small victories will keep you motivated to reach your goals. So when I got into a little bit of debt trouble, this is actually the method that I tried. But I have also sat down with clients and where a lot of their debt is in a super, super high environment. So what does that mean? If that is you, you may not want to consider the snowball method because you're actually paying super high interest. So what does this mean? We're actually going to go backwards and we're going to take a look at your statements. Your statements for your credit cards should be able to tell you how much money and how much interest you're paying on the balance that is owed. So in this case, you're going to pay the minimum on all of the, you're going to pay the minimum here on the lowest interest rates. And on the highest interest rates, you're going to pay the most. So let's just say right here, you owe 400, 300, 200, 100. In this case over here on the snowball method, we ended up paying the lowest balance first. In this case, we're going to focus on the high interest rate. So we are going to pay the minimum on the lowest interest rates, and we're going to try to work on this one the most that we can until we pay it off, and so forth here. Over time, you'll actually save more money and get out of debt sooner. So if you're not sure which one to use between these two before we go into consolidation, make sure that you work with an advisor, your accountant, or your banker, and they should be able to guide you based on your situation. Now, 3 is another way, and I also have used this method, is consolidation. So what does this mean? You get all of your credit cards gathered up. Doesn't matter what interest rate, doesn't matter what balance, you just get all of your credit cards gathered up, and then you're going to consolidate, meaning you're going to put it into a loan or a credit card, another credit card that gives you a lower interest rate. So some of the things that you need to consider is if there's any transfer fees, and a lot of the times there is a transfer fee, anywhere from 3 to 5% is usually the standard. And then also, how long will the introductory rate continue? So what does this mean? There's some credit cards out there that will give you 24 months, no interest, 18 months, no interest, 12 months, no interest, 7 months, 6 months, whatever it is that it is, you'll probably more likely want to divide that by that, by the amount of months that you get at no interest, because that's going to be the cheapest way that you are able to get out of debt. So, for example, I actually took advantage last year and I went to Ashley's Furniture and they offered me 0% no interest for 12 months. And so after that, they said your interest rate, I think, is going to be prime rate, whatever it is, 24%. And so what I ended up doing is I just ended up getting whatever, I think it was like $1,000 for a bed that I bought for my son. And then I divided that by 12. And I'm like, okay, by month number 12, I'll be debt free on that particular debt. I took advantage of 0% no interest, got to keep my cash because of course, he was jumping on his bed and broke his bed. And then I was able to get this free interest on a bed. So I was able to take advantage of that, get my son the bed when he needed it, and I paid it off in time. So same concept. You'll want to try to do that if possible, because if not, your interest rate, you'll start paying interest again. So that would be the method that you would want to use as far as that, if possible. Sometimes the amount you owe might be a little too high for you to do that, but it is recommended that to do that if you can. Also, are there new charges at a higher rate? So as I mentioned, your rate will probably most likely be higher once your introductory rate is over. So you may want to take that in consideration as well when you're shopping around to consolidate with a credit card or a loan. So how to establish and maintain good credit. And this will definitely help you when you are establishing business credit as well. Now, the way that typically you will use your personal credit is typically more so how you will be using your business credit. So let's talk about credit reports. We talked about inaccuracies and we talked about fraudulent activity. Or so what you want to do is you can either obtain an annual credit report at annualcreditreport.com, or you can call this number here and you can request an annual credit report. When you get that credit report, you want to make sure that everything on there is pretty accurate. More so look for any inaccuracies of any accounts that maybe you don't even have. Like, for example, myself, I had a home on my credit report that had I pulled it, I would have been proactive and disputed it before losing out on the investment opportunity. Now, credit scores. If you understand this, it's really easy for you to maintain a high credit score. Now, if you see on here, this person has a 703 credit score, okay? Now, this credit score is based out of 5 different categories. So what does this mean? 15% of this score is based on the length of the credit history. So this means 50% is if they have some seasoned credit history. So if you have seasoned credit history, this is a positive thing, and it affects your credit report 15%. Types of credit and use. So if having a good mix, this could also incorporate 10% of the credit score. So this is having a mixed use of credit cards, car loans, mortgages, personal loans. That is all types of credit and use. New credit. This could actually impact your credit score by 10%. So having too much new credit could also affect your credit score. So if you have too much credit, it'll affect you, but it's about 10% that it'll actually affect you. Now let's go into payment history. You see how it actually jumps up. So it's actually a combination of new credit, types of credit in use, and length of credit. So here, if you add all these up, it's 35%. Well, check this out. Your payment history is crucial. What does this mean? That if you have a payment, make sure you pay that on time, because if you don't pay that on time, your credit score will be negatively impacted by 35%. So it could negatively impact you that much. So you see how one category could actually make up for the other three categories. So you see how important it is for you to pay on time. I always tell my clients, at the very least, just pay the minimum payment if possible, right? You always got to consider like if you're having some financial trouble, what is important? I mean, obviously your housing, your car, your cell phone, that's all going to be important. Now, after all of your needs are met, like if you are not if you're able to still pay your minimum payment, do so, because this can negatively impact your credit score. So when you're trying to go get another place, let's just say for rent, or you want to buy a property, it's going to negatively impact you. 30% is the amount owed. So this can negatively affect you by 30%. So it's always recommended that you don't use your availability more than 30%, because this could actually negatively impact your credit score. Establishing or rebuilding credit. So very important, check your credit report, make sure that information is accurate and there's no inaccuracies or fraudulent activity. If there is fraudulent activity, there's things that you can do, such as dispute it, but then also freeze your credit report so that nobody can run your credit report without your consent. Talk to your bank. So your bank may have certain loan offers or credit card offers for you, and being able to establish that history. A secured credit card could also help you establish or rebuild your credit report as well. So this will allow you to secure the amount you borrow with a security deposit. So the way that that works is you go apply for a secured credit card, and then you will be putting in the deposit to make up the actual credit line that you are given. The nice thing about the secured credit card is that after a few months, anywhere from 6 months to a year, you can call them and say, hey, I've been using this card, paying it on time on a monthly basis. Is it possible to graduate my card? And there is a possibility that they graduate you early if you have good standing with the credit card. Another way to establish or rebuild credit is to get store credit cards. These are a little bit easier to get approved, especially if the banks are not approving you at the time. And if you leverage them, they are able to also establish some sort of credit or help you rebuild your credit. Check with others. So I know for my son, I just recently gave him a credit card. He's not to use it unless it's an emergency, or unless he gets permission from me. But the nice thing about it is that he has credit that will be established once he is 18 years old. My parents actually did that for me. You can do that for your kids. You could also talk to your bank to not give them a credit card if you just kind of want to help them, so that way when they become 18, they actually have some sort of credit established. But then this will also help you establish credit if you are trying to rebuild it or establish credit. You can talk to a family member or somebody that is willing to add you as an authorized user. The only thing about this is that whoever is responsible in the primary of the credit card or the loan, this will make the primary responsible in the event that you misuse it, or whoever misuses it, they will be responsible for that debt. Now, let's close out. So some of the key takeaways, we talked about the important understanding basic terms on banking and being able to understand the process before being able to start a small business. So as I mentioned, it's really crucial that you have your basic financial foundation on the personal side before you start a business. And this will pretty much give you a good start in being in good shape when you start your business. Creating solid money management habits with your personal finances will help you better money management in your business. So as I mentioned earlier, being able to create a budget, but then also save for a rainy day. This is always helpful. Creating a budget. So I will go ahead and email Irene the budget sheet, so that way you kind of have an idea of what a budget looks like, but then also some of the things that should be on your budget, and also how to pivot and adjust it if needed. Savings is not only nice to have, but it's important for those unexpected expenses. I always bring up the pandemic. And the pandemic, there were some businesses that were able to stay afloat because they had enough savings. There were some that were not able to stay afloat while they got, any type of relief. So very important that you try to save at least the 1%, try to work your way up to at least 10%. Number 5, too much credit card debt spills over into the rest of your financial life. So let's try to select a repayment strategy and stick with it. As I mentioned to you, if you're not sure which method to go by, sit down with your banker. Your banker should have enough knowledge to be able to guide you as to what route or which method to use, and may also have a loan product for you to consolidate all into reducing your interest rate and not have to pay so much. And then, of course, your credit report offers a snapshot of your full financial life. And on there, we want to make sure that we're able to take care of your credit score. So that way, in the event you need any type of financing, especially if you're starting up a whole new business, they're heavily going to take a look at your personal credit history. So very important as a business owner that you have good credit, because that way, if you ever need some sort of access to cash or access to funds, then you are actually able to be in good shape to be able to move forward with some sort of finance. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? I probably have to log back in here. Irene, do you see any questions on the chat? I had to log out because it was doing echo on my end.
No, I don't.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Looks like we're all set today. Thank you very much for infamous class today, as always. Look forward to have another class next week. Next week we have new special guest speaker Manny next week. So look forward to seeing him next week.
Yes, we're going to be talking about starting a new business. So if you're trying to start a new business, it'll definitely be a great class.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone to join us.
Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your week. Take care. Thank you, Irene.
Bye.